Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. John Schmeelk, Paul Dottino with you, coming from the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. We are just 2 days away from the NFL Draft, Paul. And we saw the rumors out there, what's going on. We had some stuff from McShay and Schefter yesterday. By the way, if you want to hear from Todd McShay, you can tune into the Giants Huddle podcast. It's up on audio already. That'll be coming up on video a little bit later on today. If it's not up there already, it will be shortly. In terms of what the Giants might do with 3, and that seems to be the first spot here where there seems to be some questions as to what the Giants might do, and we hope to hear from Sal Paolantonio in just a second to talk a little bit about what he thinks. He'll be here covering the Giants draft room for ESPN on Thursday as to what the Giants might do.
Exactly. And, I think that we all know, number one, right? Unless there's some kind of power play that goes on in Tennessee that changes this whole Cam Ward thing, I think we've all been pretty much cemented into Cam Ward to the Titans now for almost 2 months, if not longer. So I don't expect any surprises there. I still would not be shocked if Cleveland pulls off some kind of surprise because they're the Browns. That's what the Browns do.
I've been told you could write Travis Hunter in pen.
Okay, is that pen a Sharpie marker?
Well, most pens aren't available, aren't erasable either. But yes, I get your point.
So I'm just saying my ears will be alert for maybe some kind of crazy out of left field surprise by the Browns. I don't expect one, but I think at least that might be more possible than Tennessee. Then, of course, it falls to the Giants, and I really think that the only question becomes the medicals. It's going to be up to Ronnie Barnes, who I think is going to have to tell the Giants staff, Joe Shane all the way down to, or all the way up to John Mara, what do we think about the Abdul Carter foot injury? If the Abdul Carter foot injury is something that Ronnie Barnes just cannot digest, well, then it opens up a whole new can of worms and a completely different scenario. But if he can digest that, look, even Joe Shane said last week, John, in the pre-draft press conference, he actually even mentioned the fact that, you know what, and he's right, some injuries, you say, okay, injury, you're going to miss him for a few weeks. Even if he misses the first couple of games of the season, you're going to have him October 1st? He's like, I can deal with that. So the level of Ronnie Barnes' concern is going to dictate how Joe Shane decides to proceed. That's just the way it is. So we'll see.
Well, I mean, it all depends if that's actually the top guy in the board, too. I mean, I think that makes sense that it would be based on what we know about these guys.
Sure.
But we'll have to wait and see, and that's obviously something that we don't know about. Though we did hear from Joe Shane did say at his press conference that he doesn't see the medicals on Carter being a worry. So I think
that's what he said.
I doubt he would say that if he thought they would be a worry.
I would tend to agree with you. And again, not that agents don't always twist the truth, but we also have the report after the medical recheck from Drew Rosenhaus, Carter's agent, who said the foot was progressing very well, and they didn't think there was going to be a problem either.
All right, so we'll hear about that and a whole lot more. We're joined, our guy Sal Paolantonio from ESPN. Sal, you got Schmeelk and Dottino here in New Jersey, where we'll see you in a couple of days. How's your off-season treating you, man? Everything good?
Everything's good. Thanks for having me on, John and Paul. I really appreciate it.
No, Sal, thanks for doing this. We look forward to seeing you in the building in a couple of days. So I'll just start very, very simply with the Giants specifically. Sal, what are you hearing about what number 3 might look like for them?
Well, I think the likely pick is edge rusher Abdul Carter from Penn State. And to me, John, I think Abdul Carter is the best player in this draft.
Yeah, so do I Sal, to be honest with you.
I think Cam Ward may be the best quarterback, John, but Carter, to me, should be the first pick. I do agree that, the medical experts around the league believe that he is going to be good to go for training camp and for September for the opening this season. I mean, yeah, it's tough to pass on Shedeur Sanders. He's a talent, but I think it's professional malpractice to pass on Abdul Carter. I mean, he wore number 11 for a reason. That's why they give out that number at Penn State. He has modeled his game on Micah Parsons. And, I mean, you saw the Super Bowl. The Eagles beat the Chiefs with a superior pass rush. Around the league, GMs and scouts and coaches that I have talked to, they're looking for pass rushers, especially those pass rushers, John and Paul, who can win one-on-one matchups, who can demand a double team. And I think Abdul Carter is that kind of guy.
Now, Sal, just because the Giants have the 3, and look, everybody who listens to this show knows that I'm not in favor of trading out. I would make the pick. But I've also thought about that possibility and said, look, if you can get a shopping cart full of 24-karat gold bars and someone is willing to just totally, well, I call it a Godfather offer, right, Sal? You know what I'm talking about, a Godfather offer that you can't refuse. If they get one of those, what team is the most likely to make a Godfather offer to the Giants and basically do like Mike Ditka when he traded his whole draft for Ricky Williams to move up to 3? Is there such a team that might exist?
Well, there has to be a player that multiple teams want to go up and get in order to demand that kind of trade value to get to number 3. I agree with you. Giants are in a great position. They're in the pivot point of this draft. They are, without a doubt, they're in the sweet spot of this draft at number 3. And if they have a shopping cart full of gold bars, take it. But it's going to be hard to find because there's not that many picks in this draft. I only have 5 guys who are blue chippers in this draft who have a blue chip grade. That's the way we looked at it on the NFL Matchup Show with Greg and Darius. And that's what we came away with. And to me, it goes number 1, it goes Abdul Carter and then Travis Hunter, 1A. And then after that, I really, really like Mason Graham. The Giants couldn't go wrong there.
You and me both, Sal.
Excuse me?
You and me both.
Yeah, I mean, no question. And I love Malachi Starks as a safety. That's not necessarily an area where the Giants might be looking at number 3 for a safety. But you got a chance to take a blue chip player like Abdul Carter. And like I said, this is what teams are looking for now. You know, again, I'll go back to the Super Bowl. Fangio didn't blitz. You're looking for guys like Jalen Carter, who demands a double team, who can win on one-on-one matchups like an Aaron Donald, who you can move around. And, you know, I get it. The Giants would love a mother load of picks. You're only 3-14 last year. You're trying to really build your team top to bottom. But Carter is and if you can then take Carter at 3, Paul and John, and move back into the first round for Jackson Dart, the quarterback out of Ole Miss. If you're telling me the Giants can get Carter and Dart in round 1, the Giants are winning round 1 of the draft. They would win the draft. They would win round 1. They would be the story of the draft on draft night, day 1, Thursday.
Sal, we're on the same page. I agree with you. I think if I had to guess right now, I think it's Carter at 3. And then I think the pick at 34 is what becomes very interesting. Before we get there specifically, and I'll follow up with that question specifically after I ask you this first one. Is the window or door still open for potentially picking Shedeur at 3 in your opinion? The Giants could like him, but not like him enough to pick him at 3. There's been varying reports over the last couple of days about things of that nature. What are you hearing about what the Giants' love is for Shedeur Sanders? Right now, would you be absolutely blown away if he gets picked at 3? Would it not surprise you that much? And do you think that could be a player the Giants could also trade back into the first round to try and target?
Yeah, you used very specific words there, and so I'll add.
I tried to.
I would be surprised. I would not be blown away.
Yes.
Why? Because, you know, nobody's done more homework on Shedeur Sanders than the Giants. They've invested a lot of time and money in scouting this guy, visiting with him, looking at everything he has done, worked him out, watched his games in person and on tape. So clearly they've invested a lot of time. So I would be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked. I had Shedeur Sanders as a top 10 pick. I disagree with people about he should be dropping down below Jackson Dart. Shedeur Sanders has a couple of elements that you can't coach and you can't find on the street. One, tough as nails. Took a lot of punishment at Colorado. The league right now is going after quarterbacks. 31% of the time quarterbacks were under duress last year. That's the highest percentage since that statistic was being kept 15 years ago. So quarterbacks are under duress all of the time. You guys know that with Big Blue. And you got to have a quarterback who's willing to stand in the pocket and deliver, look down the gun barrel and deliver the football. And that's Sanders. So toughness matters. And guess what? Just ask Ernie Accorsi. Pedigree matters. Just ask Archie Manning and the Manning family. Pedigree matters. Why? Because he's grown up around one of the greatest superstars in football history, a guy who I respect, Deion Sanders, tremendously, who, by the way, nobody talks about this, guys. Deion Sanders was a tremendous teammate, tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what sport, whether he was with the Atlanta Braves or he was with the Dallas Cowboys. He was a tremendous teammate, and I think that Sanders, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and I think that Sanders has been coached up properly to be an NFL talent and to take what comes in New York. Having said that, I still believe overall Abdul Carter is the best player in this draft, and if the Giants can get him at number 3, to me, it's a steal. It's a steal to get him at 3, really.
Now, Sal, you talk to people around the league with the quarterbacks. If Shedeur gets out of the top 3, and you get the Dart and Milroe and Tyler Shook into the equation as well, where do you see them going off? Is it the Saints at 9? Is it the Steelers at 21? Is it either the Saints or Browns or Giants trading back into the first round? Could the Giants just wait at 34 and pick? What do you think the rest of the quarterback scenario is going to look like if Sanders does, in fact, not go in the top 3?
Right. So, John, the natural pivot points in this draft are, number 1, Giants at 3.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Saints at 9.
Yep.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because both of those teams are quarterback-needy teams, and the quarterbacks beyond Cam Ward are a work in progress. Let's just say they are a work in progress. We'll agree on that. So 3 and 9 are the natural pivot points. So if the Saints don't take a quarterback at all at 9, now both of these quarterbacks are in play at the bottom of the draft. You go after 9 and you say maybe the Dolphins at 13 could take a quarterback. Maybe they could be convinced to do that. But if you look at the Dolphins, you're thinking Mike McDaniel's on the clock, and they got to get better on defense, and they may be trading their best corner. So probably not. They're going to probably take a corner at 13. Then you drop down to 21 with the Steelers. Mm-hmm. They've got to have a quarterback. Depends on who they take. Let's say both quarterbacks are available at 21. Now the Giants are in the game because the Chargers at 22, not taking one. Packers, not taking one. Vikings, not taking a quarterback. Texans, not taking a quarterback at 25. And if the Giants are sitting there at 34, and they know Cleveland's at 33,
yep,
and they want to have to move up past the Rams at 26 to get either Sanders or Dart, because we know the Rams are interested in maybe taking a quarterback at 26, maybe. And they got to go up between 22 and 25. That's where it's really going to get interesting for Joe Shane, Brian Daboll, and Mr. Mara, where they figure out, okay, what do we want to give up to jump ahead of the Browns to get to maybe 22, 23 to take a quarterback, and which one do we take? That's the drama in the draft to me right there. So we're going to be watching the clock for the Giants throughout the first round, no question.
And so the Vikings need picks. They only have 4 of them. So I think that's a team that would probably like to acquire some more.
Now, this may be hard to predict, Sal, but as you said, it's how much are the Giants willing to give up. We would assume that if those 2 quarterbacks drop down to near the bottom of the first round, there may be 2 or 3 other teams that have the same thinking that the Giants do. Like, oh, we could still get a 5th-round option by trying to trade up. So it may literally be a bidding war and a competition between a few teams, which then obviously raises the price. Do you get a feel at all from the people around the league what kind of collateral we're going to be talking about to make that move?
Right, Paul, and you just laid it out perfectly, Paul, because the collateral is the leverage. The collateral is always the leverage. The price is always the leverage. So if you have 2 or 3 teams that you think are going to jump up there and you're in competition and it's live, remember, it's live on the clock. You got to make a deal. Some of these teams have deals in place with some other teams at the bottom of the round. They have all kinds of scenarios. That's why they had these meetings till 2 or 3 in the morning, and they're getting the Caesar's pizza at 2 or 3 in the morning, you know. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do. So you just laid it out. It's hard to predict because there's so many variables. Are both quarterbacks available? Do we know who else is interested in moving up? Maybe the Raiders at 37 are thinking, yeah, we want to be in the party too. So there's a lot of possibilities. Don't forget the Saints pick at number 40 as well. So you could have a bunch of different teams. The Jets at 42. Why not? The Jets need a quarterback of the future.
Sure.
There could be a lot of teams in competition to get up to 22. So I see what you're saying about the Packers. But if I'm those teams and I know everybody's in play, I don't wait till 23. The Chargers have Justin Herbert. If someone's going to pick a quarterback, you got to go to 22 and just ice it up and be right behind the Steelers, especially if the Steelers pass on both.
Sal, in the law of supply and demand, when you have teams getting into a bidding war, we have heard some folks, and I'm not saying that this is a majority opinion, but there are some folks who think that Tyler Shuck might somehow sneak into the bottom of the first round. Is, in your opinion, from what you've heard, this strictly a Sanders and Dart shelf that people would shop for at the bottom of the first round? Or is there a possibility, realistically, that Shuck could be one of those guys who comes in play for these teams seeking to make a move?
Or Milroe. I'm going to throw him into that question, too.
Throw him in there, too, if you like.
Yeah, and Paul, you guys just asked the perfect question. And I think in this draft, it's so different because it's a quarterback-needy league, and there are not a lot of great quarterbacks in this draft. I think, and I also bounce my ideas off of Greg Cosell and Darius Butler, and I also look at my Bible. This is my 30th draft, so for 3 decades, I've used Our Lads scouting service.
Mm-hmm. Love those guys.
They're great, and I'm looking at their book right now. I study it. I call them on the phone. I talk to them about it. They have Jackson Dart with a 3rd-round grade. They have Jalen Milroe with a 4th-round grade. They have Tyler with a 5th-round grade. So there's a huge shelf, I think, big drop-off. And, you're talking about a completely different set of circumstances. If you're bringing in a Jalen Milroe, who I like because of the speed, I like because of the dual threat ability of Jalen Milroe, I would pick Jalen Milroe over the others because you have 2 veteran quarterbacks who can get you through 2025. You looked at their opponents for 2025. The Giants won't be favored in any of their games, home or away. And so they have a very difficult set of opponents in 2025. You need exactly what Joe Shane did, which is have veteran leadership at the quarterback position and guys who have been proven to be productive. I interviewed Russell Wilson many times last year, did a lot of the Steelers games. I know what I saw. I know what the limitations are. I saw the drop-off against Philly at the end of the season. I know what it looks like. But Russell Wilson is a guy you need in the room of the quarterbacks right now, and you need on your offense 100%. And if you can tell them again, I'm going to go back to this point because I think it's an important one for Giants fans to know and for people to know. The Giants could be in a position to get Abdul Carter and a quarterback in the first round if they play it right. I'm telling you, John Mara is going to finally get some of that sleep he lost after Saquon jumped to Philly if they get both of those players in the first round. No question in my mind.
I'm curious, going around the league, and we can get off the quarterbacks now. Other positions, Sal, this is a great running back draft. I'm sure Greg has told you. I've watched them too, and Darius, and just so many good players. So I think my question is, to your point, it's a draft that lacks a lot of blue chippers, right? But running back is also so deep, I could see teams saying, well, do I want to pick a running back now when I can get one that's not that much worse around later? So I wonder if you think we're going to see a lot of running backs go earlier than usual, or because it's so deep, people are going to be more willing to wait for that running back.
Could be either one, but the bottom line is there's a running back renaissance in the National Football League. You had 6 running backs have over 300 carries in 2024. 6. In 2023, 0. You went from 0 to 6 of 300 carries. You had 6 backs with over 1,300 yards. That's the first time that's happened in 10 years. And as I mentioned, Saquon was over 2,000, and he led the team to the Super Bowl. So there's a running back renaissance. And you look at the names, we all know who they are. Ashton Genty, to me, is a top 5 pick in this draft, and he has a top 5 grade at the Our Lads, the running back out of Boise State.
Yep.
Some people have Omarion Hampton drafted higher, rated higher than Ashton Genty. So you got a 1-2 punch. When was the last time we saw 2 running backs taken in the first round?
No idea.
It was Gibbs and Bijan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. Good call, John. Sal, let me ask you this. You know, we get a lot of folks who come on the program and they're like, well, you guys keep telling us that the defensive line is very deep in this draft. And we know it is. I mean, we're talking 3 and 4 rounds of really, really good players. How does that impact, knowing the Giants need defensive line help? When we talk about making a move potentially into the bottom of the first round and giving up picks, you're talking about 5 in the first 105 that the Giants have in their pocket right now. Knowing they could get running back help, they could get defensive line help, they might be able to get corner help. I mean, you know, there are spots in that first 105 where they could really fill a bunch of holes. If they were to make some kind of move up into the late first round, you're going to have to bypass a bunch of really, really good players on the second day, which I don't know how much of an appetite they're going to have that.
And you're right. And it's counterintuitive to the point that you're making about the Giants at 3. If the Giants at 3 could collect, as you said, a shopping cart full of gold bars that would help the team to move out of number 3, to help the team that went 3 and 14 really redevelop quickly, restock quickly, reset very quickly, then why would they then, if they don't do that, turn around and give up a lot of picks to move into the first round to take a quarterback that may not be worth it? It's a very, 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 very interesting question. And they have to answer that based on, A, do they like the quarterback enough that this is the quarterback of the future? You know, we all heard from different people around the league, I have for sure, that your head coach really likes Jackson Dart. He has a lot of traits that remind him of Josh Allen in Buffalo. Is it worth it to take 3 or 4 picks or 2 or 3 picks and then be sitting on the sideline until the Giants pick at 99, right? And now that's their next pick.
That's going to be tough to do, Sal. It really is.
What to do. So you're looking at picking 3 and in the 20s, but you're getting 2 great players in the first round, and then not pick till you're on the clock in the 3rd round at pick number 99. It's a hard decision to make, but I think if you came away with Carter and Dart, people would say you did the right thing.
All right, final question from me, Sal. Do you feel this draft is going to see a lot of movement because there aren't a lot of blue chip players, and I think teams' boards from picks 10 to 40 are going to be very, very different from team to team? Or do you think that there's not going to be a lot of trades, almost for the same reason, where there's no one that's going to be worth giving up draft capital for?
I think in the first round you'll see a couple of trades. There aren't a lot of trades at the top of the first round, typically, historically, and especially in this draft, John, because there aren't a lot of blue chip players to go invest a lot of draft capital. Mm-hmm. But I think you'll see a lot of trades once we get to day 2, in round 2, for the very reason that Paul just illuminated, the very reason that Paul just said. There are a lot of edge rushers and defensive tackles in this draft. By our count, could be 24 in the first 3 rounds that are worth taking. Yeah. And you've got to have this. I can't stress this enough. The NFL now is about pressuring the quarterback with 4, finding guys who can win one-on-one matchups, demand a double team and can set other guys free at the quarterback without blitzing, like Fangio did in Super Bowl 59 against Patrick Mahomes II, and playing cover deep so you're not giving up the home run. That's the league. That's the league right now. That's why you see so many short passes. The league is about not giving up the home run, finding a center fielder who can roam, like a C.J. Gardner-Johnson, which I thought was a huge mistake by the Eagles giving up on him. I thought trading him was a bad idea. He's going to be super hard to replace. He was vital to that Super Bowl team. You got to have a center fielder, and in the front, attack with 4 and play press man coverage on the outside. That's the formula right there.
Two-part question, Sal, to finish it off for me. One's a big picture NFL. One is Giants-focused. I'll ask you the NFL one first. By the time we get to Monday morning, what's your long shot biggest surprise story that's probably going to shock most of us and drop our jaws? If you had to make a prediction on that Monday morning, you're going to be like, wow, man, I can't believe that happened, but you kind of had an inkling that it might. That would be number one. Number two, do you think that Joe Schoen has an appetite to dip into next year's draft and perhaps avoid some of this consternation about trading this year's first 105, somewhere in there, and maybe trade something out of the 26th draft, which he usually shows a hesitancy to do?
I haven't heard that. I think the hesitancy is real. I think, listen, what I'm hearing from around the league about the Giants is they're in play. They want to make the team better now.
Mm-hmm.
3-14, you've had a horrible run here since 2017. You got to get it right. You've got veteran leadership in your quarterback room with 2 guys who can be productive. Let's try to find somebody who can get it done long-term at the quarterback position. But the worst thing you can do, you can make a bad situation worse, is if you reach for quarterback.
Right.
So I don't think that they're going to do that. As far as your first question, shock, I think the shock would be Sanders being available day 2.
Okay, fair enough.
Sal, awesome stuff. Tell the folks where they can find you on ESPN the next few days, when your special draft preview of the NFL matchup show is airing, and anything else you want them to know.
Okay, thanks, John. I really appreciate it. Our NFL draft special, Greg Cosell, Darius Butler, the people at NFL Films, couldn't do without them. They're the best. They do such a great job. It's the longest-running X's and O show on TV. You can watch it at all times on ESPN+, but it will be part of tomorrow night's draft marathon on ESPN2. It aired last night, so it is available on ESPN+.
Great.
We've been doing it for years. I will be at the Quest Diagnostic Center tomorrow live on SportsCenter at noon. So you guys will see me tomorrow. I'll be.
So should we get a cot ready for you?
No, what I look forward to is lunch with Dion Dargan in the cafeteria at Pat Hale. That's what I look forward to. So I'll see you guys. I'll say hi. Say hi to everybody. I'll see him tomorrow.
Thanks, Sal. Appreciate it as always, my friend. Sal Paolantonio from ESPN. He's just a gentleman. Does a fantastic job. We love Sal. So great to have him on, giving us what he's hearing about the draft.
We forgot to tell him they got jumbo chocolate chip cookies in the cafe now. They cut them bigger than they used to.
But they're also flatter.
They are flatter, but they are bigger, which means they have like more chips in them and the circumference of the cookie.
You can handle those extra calories there?
I just got to do a few extra steps. That's all, John.
More than a few. All right, 201-939-4513. I mentioned what we have going up on our feeds. Todd McShay should be up there now. We have, yesterday was Thomas Dimitroff, the former NFL general manager, talking about the draft. So check that out on the Giants Huddle podcast feed, Giants YouTube channel, Giants app, Giants.com/podcast. All those areas usually get it. Draft season is going to go up tomorrow morning. And then it looks like we're going to be able to grab Phil Simms at some point tomorrow. And we'll post that up at the end of the day on Wednesday. So it'll be there for your Thursday morning commute wherever you go to work, and get you ready for the draft. We'll do a lot of the quarterback stuff with Phil. So stay tuned for that right here on the Giants Huddle podcast, and, of course, the Giants Podcast Network podcast feed. Just search for that on your favorite podcast platform. All right, you ready to take some calls here, Paulie?
Let's do it.
All right, 201-939-4513. RJ is in Savannah hanging out with the bananas. RJ, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How you doing?
What's up, man? How are you?
Good. Listen, I'm getting excited for the draft. Looking forward to Thursday, and a couple of things. I've been shifting back and forth between Sanders and Carter, but now that Cam Ward will be unavailable, I feel strongly that we should go after and get that stud on defense, Carter, to go with our stud on defense, Neighbors. And then when we get to pick 34, I don't think we should trade up and get back into this. That's just my opinion. I think we should stay at 34 and get either Henderson or Judkins as a running back from Ohio State. What's your thoughts on that?
Look, I think it's possible. I don't think I would rule that out. I would stick and pick at 34. I would not move up. I can find good arguments for drafting. If you want a quarterback, I can find good arguments for Sanders, Locke, or rather for Locke, not Locke, or Dart, Shook, or Milroe. And I think one of those three guys will be there at 34. I don't think all three of those guys, plus Sanders and Ward, will be off the board by 34. So I think you stick a pick at 34. Now, of course, the Giants are not going to be okay with any of those guys. They're going to have a preference. So that's important to note. I'm just saying what I would be thinking there. So if they want to trade up and get their guy because it's their guy, I understand it. But I would sit and pick at 34. And if you don't go quarterback, I would lean towards probably defensive tackle or guard in that spot, depending if one of Booker, Jackson, Harmon, Grant, Tyleek Williams, someone or Zabel, someone in that area is around. That's where, if I don't go quarterback, that's where I'll be looking at pick 34.
I'll say this. They've got to make the phone calls if they really believe in one of the QBs, whoever that guy is.
Yep.
Sanders, Dart, Shuck, I don't care who it is. If the draft is getting down into the 20s, like Sal just described as to where the spots might be that you could make a move, they've got to make the phone call and at least find out what the price is. Now, depending upon the competition, which will drive the price up, if they're all in on a guy and the price is reasonable, and I know what you're going to say to me, what's reasonable? Define reasonable. I don't know what reasonable is. Only they know what
Daniel
reasonable
Jeremiah
is.
has thrown out a 3 and a 5. If you look at the trade chart, that would get that done.
That probably means there's not a lot of a bidding war going on. Because if there's a bidding war going on, it's going to be more than that. Depends on how many other people are fighting you for it.
He's just going off the trade chart.
Okay, so now I would say if they're all in on a quarterback, if they really believe that guy has it and they agree, I'd give up a 3 and a 5. I would do that. I just don't know that you're going to be able to get away that cheap. Well, Milroe, for me, that's a no-go. I'm a pocket passer guy. I'm not after, that, but that's a personal preference. Some guys like fastball pitchers, some guys like screwball pitchers.
Say hypothetically we picked up Milroe. Now, once again, the return of our RPOs, okay? And this kid his athleticism is off the roof. So I think that would be a good pick for me if he's available at 34, because that would be Dabo's little project.
Well, and again, that's why I say quarterback X. Whoever it is, you and I could have a preference as to who it would be. I'm just saying if they've got a quarterback X that they're going to want to go up for, the price, to me, you've got to make the call and find out if it's just too exorbitant, then you back out. If it's only a 3 and a 5, John, I'm going to do it. I just don't know that you're going to be able to get away that cheap.
I don't know. It's a good question. You got anything else for us, RJ?
No, that's it.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to Thursday. And I appreciate what you guys do. I've been with you guys for a number of years, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate y'all.
Thank you, RJ. Just to throw out some teams here. These are the teams that have the fewest draft picks, or the least amount of draft capital, okay? Because those teams are usually looking to pick up more picks, right?
Especially in this draft.
So the Minnesota Vikings, they only have 4 picks in this draft. 24, 97, 139, and 187. All right? So that's the Vikings. They have the fewest picks, and they select at pick number, if I bring it up here, NFL Home, that should have the full draft order on it, right? The Vikings select at pick number 24, all right? Then the 10...
And there's a cavern between their next pick.
They don't pick till 97.
That's
the
a
third
huge
round.
gap.
It's basically 2 full rounds.
Huge gap.
Huge gap. All right. Then you have and 64 would be a nice 65 rather would be a nice little pick right in the middle of that gap that they would be able to pick up if the Giants would trade their first third round pick, right? Then I won't go in the exact order, but the team with the third fewest amount or least amount of draft capital. Actually, I'll give the fifth fewest. That's the Lions at 28. They pick at 28, 60, 102, 130, 196. So they have only their own picks at the each event round. They don't have any other extra picks. So that's a team I would not be shocked if they move down. The Lions select at 28 if you're looking to move up, okay? You have the Houston Texans. They select at 25, 58, and 79. So they don't have a ton of capital either if they want to move. The Washington Commanders. Now, again, this would be an interdivisional trade here. They select at 29. They have the second fewest draft picks. You have all the Deebo Samuel trade that they made in the offseason and some of those other moves. They pick at 29, 61, but then not until 128 at the pick 61. So they don't have a third round pick. So that's another team that might want to be acquiring extra picks by sliding down. The Falcons are also in that mix, but I think they picked too early to be a team that you'd be able to move up to. They pick at 15. They also don't have a third round pick. The Steelers don't have a second round pick, but again, they're a quarterback needy team, so I'm not sure if they're a team that would want to trade down, unless maybe they don't like a quarterback and they would want to slide down from 21 and the Giants move up there to grab one. That's possible. And then the Rams, I just bring them up because they don't have a second round pick, and they're always looking to acquire extra picks.
Yeah,
the Rams.
they love to do that.
They love to move. So those are some of the teams I would keep an eye on in the 20s.
Now, the other factor to consider when you're talking about making a move like this is part of the trade could simply be that you flop picks. Now, you're going to have to give up extra picks. Obviously, there's no question if you're going to want to make a move. But part of it could also be a flop, where you tell somebody down at the bottom of the fourth round, hey, we'll flop with you.
Sure.
And that's almost like giving them a full round.
Yeah.
Because your flop is going to be very, very wide. So that could also be part of the equation somehow. If you wanted to avoid giving up an extra pick later on in the draft, you might just flop someone from the bottom to the top, and they might see that as great value right there.
Yep, absolutely. 201-939-4513. Chuck is in Virginia. He's up next. Hi, Chuck.
Hello, gentlemen. Hope you're having a good day.
You too.
So, this is one of those drafts where I definitely think we should take the third round with number 3 pick and trade down. This is why. The trade value chart doesn't work really well in this type of draft. There's too many high-quality defensive tackles and offensive linemen and running backs. They're going to be available in the third and fourth rounds. So the draft chart, it's going to undervalue that. Second, we need an extra first-round pick next year to get that quarterback that has a real chance of becoming, our starting quarterback for the next 10 years.
Well, check, unless you're dropping down into like the late teens or early 20s, you're not getting a first-round pick next year in the trade.
Right. And I've been saying for months that would be my stipulation. If I were to trade out, I'd have to get at least a 1 next year.
Because
and I'd probably want a 2 as well.
You're not getting the quarterback tax in any trade this year where you're getting a 1 next year. It's more than likely not going to happen.
I don't think it's realistic.
See, that's the thing. I'm willing to move down that far. If I can pick up a couple extra third-round picks and a first-round pick next year, then I build my team up. I've got a better defensive line. I've got a better offensive
No, but Chuck,
line.
my point is that even if I hear what you're saying, but even if you move down that far, I'm not sure you're finding a team that's going to be willing to give you their 1 next year.
I'm with John on this one. And again, that's a proposed scenario that I talked about 3 months ago on this program. And John's like, I don't think you will. And the more and more we've gone on, I agree with John. I don't think that's realistic. I just don't.
If you can figure out a way, Chuck, to move down to 15 and get a 1 next year, would I be in favor of that? Yeah, absolutely. I just don't think that's going to happen.
You guys mentioned a couple of days ago, San Francisco might really fall in love with Carter and say, willing to give up a 1 next year.
Yeah, but again, that's a move of 8 picks. You're not getting a 1 next year for sliding down 8 picks.
No.
Well, if somebody comes up and offers it, I think if I were the owner, I would take it.
No, yes. If the 49ers called and said, we'll give you a 1 to go down to 11, would I say yes? Absolutely. But I think, maybe Santa will knock on the door next and come up with a big pile of presents. And then the Easter Bunny will show up with a nice Easter basket, the Tooth Fairy with some money to put under the pillow. I just don't think that's that real. Chuck, I'm with you. If they do, take it. I just don't think that's something, if I was a Giant fan, I would get my hopes up about. Talking to a bunch of people that are heavily involved in the draft process around the league, everyone says there are a bunch of teams that want to trade down in this draft, and they can't find any that want to trade up. So I think that's going to be a tough go. And now the Niners do have a lot of draft capital, but I also think they've lost so many players, they need to fill a lot of holes with that draft capital. So I'm not sure how much of that they want to give up to move up 8 picks.
I know I would. That's what I want, and because I want to build a team. I don't need a red chip player or a blue chip player as much as I need a lot of really good players.
Well, it's okay to want that, and that's why you always keep the phone lines open.
Yeah,
because you never know who's going to call you, and if you know what they say years ago, there's a sucker born every minute. Maybe there's somebody out there who makes a phone call and says, "Joe, yeah, you can fleece me. It's okay."
And again, I will say this too. You move down into the teens or even after 10, there's a good chance the player you're getting at 10 or 11 in this draft is no different than the player another team's getting at 28 or 29. That's just the way the draft is.
So why would they move?
Well, and you also just have a bigger chance of whiffing, right? I mean, you get into that area of the draft, there's a lot of misses. Mm-hmm. You pick Abdul Carter at 3, barring injuries, the chance of him just being a miss is really, really small.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you can have injuries, you can have things like that you can't control. But in terms of him just not being good enough to cut it as an edge player in the National Football League, I think that's a pretty high % chance of a hit there if you're picking Abdul Carter at 3.
Well, you heard what Sal said about his blue chips, the guys who he has. He's only got 5 of them.
I have 3.
And
I have Carter, Hunter, and Genty. Then next tier, I have Cam Ward by himself, and then I'm down to like my middle of the first round guys, at best.
And you guys know my favorite 3, Hunter, Carter, and Graham in that order. Bottom line, there's not a full shelf load of these blue chippers this year.
No,
there's just not.
There are not. All right, let's go to Len in Columbia, Maryland. We're just hanging out in the mid-Atlantic states here, apparently. Len, what's going on, man?
Hey guys, how you doing?
We're good.
Well, it's almost here. We got about 60 hours to go.
Finally. Yes.
Listen, great coverage all the way from January on.
Thank you.
Terrific job, guys. Really kept the fans thinking about some things. I appreciate all your work. Look, I got 3 guys at number 3 that I would sit back and say we got a terrific player. I prefer Carter, but listen, if Carter's not there, I'll take Hunter. If somehow it falls to Graham, I'll take Graham, and I'll be happy with those 3 guys at the top.
Now this might be blasphemy for you and Dottino, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I've heard more than one person that, again, is very heavily involved in this draft process tell me there is, around the league, there is some divided opinion on Graham because of his lack of testing and his measurables. And they don't believe he's a uber athlete where he has a ton of upside. So I'm trying to remember who said this. Was it Daniel Jeremiah that said it? That one thing that he thinks is on the table is that Graham falls out of the top 8 or 9 players.
Wow. Interesting. I could, on the measurables, it is kind of interesting that he dropped to 296 from 320 for the combine.
But I think in his pro day, wasn't he back up at 310 again?
Yeah, he's worked his way back up to 306.
Exactly.
Yeah, 306
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, I got him on my list. Let me move on from that.
He's a good player.
Don't take too much time, guys.
Sure.
I'm going to throw out some names to you. There's a bunch of guys through this. By the way, no trades. I'm just listen. We got 8 picks. The scouts have been out there. Let's get some players in here. Paulie, I think we got to do it with our first 5 picks. That 5th round pick is not even our own. There's about 50 picks between 105 and where we pick in the 5th round.
I believe that 5th round pick, was that part of a swap in a trade?
Yes.
I think they swapped 5 with.
It's either Seattle for our pick. I think Seattle has our pick.
Yeah.
And
That was the Leonard Williams
I'm
deal.
not sure where the 5th round pick comes from, but it's not our scheduled pick. That's a long time.
It's Seattle.
I think we got to
it's
do it
Seattle.
In those
it was a swap
first
with
5
Seattle.
picks,
Len,
Paulie. We got to do it in those first 5 picks.
Len, I agree with you. I think that's where I think someone like you might be able to get a running back. I think at 154 that'll help you. But I don't. I think most of the really good players that you think can become a starter in this league will be off the board by the time you get to 150.
That's why the 3rd round compensatory at 99 is so sweet, because it does give you 5 in 105. That is just absolutely dynamite.
Listen, take advantage of that. We spent all this money on scouting. Take advantage of that. Pick some players. All right, here's what I'm trying to do. Just to give you guys a hint. I'm going to unveil my mock 1.0 tomorrow. Laugh out loud.
Oh, come on, man.
So I'm going to but I'm trying to figure it in. I got some guys that I would love to see in blue. Let me run a couple of names by you.
Sure.
And you tell me what round I would need to pick that guy in. Okay?
Sure.
And if you get bored, cut me off.
No, that's fine.
We'll talk during the draft.
No, I like this game.
Okay.
What do you got?
All right. I don't have any quarterbacks. Caleb Johnson from Iowa.
You might be able to get him at the top of round 3.
I don't think he plays as big as his frame. I'll be honest with you, Len. I don't know that I would take him. If you want a power back like I do,
at all, Paul,
I want Scatterboo. I'll take Gordon. I'll take Mullings. I'll take Judkins. Caleb Johnson, and I know the connection.
Yeah, but he's better backs than those guys, though.
Well, I understand, but here's what it comes down to. If you want a hammer, no, I don't. He doesn't play like a hammer.
Nobody's a short yardage only back anymore. You got to be able to do more than that.
It depends on how you want to fill up your room.
Yeah, but let me say this, Paul. I agree with you. I'd like Junkins too, but he's a 1st round pick.
I would say top 50.
Your 1st round pick is already gone. I'm trying to find guys who are going to be there.
Yeah, let me go this way.
Not a number one.
Dane Brugler did his mock, his 7th round mock last week. He had Caleb Johnson falling to the Giants at pick 65.
All right. Okay. So we're in the third round.
Yes.
All right. Good. What about Skateball?
Scatterbo, I would say
4th.
Probably in the. No, I think you would have to pick him at 99, and he might not get there.
99, 105 is not that far apart.
I don't know. I don't know if he's getting there though.
You don't think so?
I don't. I would. If you made me bet right now, will Scatterbo be there in the 4th round? I would say no, but it is possible.
Okay.
But it's possible.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. How about Martinez from Miami?
I think he's a 3rd round guy, so I think you probably have to pick him. It would either be him or Caleb Johnson. I think at the top of the 3rd round.
Okay. And how about the Rutgers kid?
You can get him probably in round 5 or 6.
Yeah, he's not going to go.
Okay. How about Ferguson, the tight end from Oregon?
3. You know what? He might not get to you. I've heard there's love on the street for him. He might not get to 65. But I would not pick him at 34. So he might be a guy you never have access to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
All right. So if we wanted him, your guess is we'd have to pick him at 2, which we're not going to do.
If I had to bet today, that's what I would bet. Yes.
Okay. How about Higgins from Iowa State?
He'll be picked somewhere between 40 and 55.
He's a 2nd round pick, Len. There's no way he's getting out of 2.
All right. How about Felton from Maryland?
Ty Felton? You could probably get him at the top of the 4th round, I bet.
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly.
Okay. Let me ask you about a couple of defensive backs.
Sure.
What about Burke from Ohio State?
4 or 5.
I have him as a sleeper early 3rd day. So, I mean, I'm interested that why you picked his name out of the hat there.
I don't think you could wait till your late 5th rounder. I think you'd have to pick him at 105.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
He's on my target list, man. Very impressive.
If I wanted to take a chance on Morrison, I probably wouldn't do this. I just, I like Notre Dame guys. Where could I get Morrison with those injuries?
You would have to pick him at the top of 3. He might not get there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Let's go to defensive tackles real quick. I assume, from what you've been saying, Williams from Ohio State would be there at 34.
I think so. I don't think it's a
chance.
guarantee. He's such a safe player, Len. I could see one of those teams at the bottom end of the first round saying, look, we want to improve our run defense. You know, the Bills, for example, they need size up the middle. They're a very small defense, and they got ran on a lot in the playoffs. I could see them saying, look, we have all these like upfield Ed Oliver type defensive linemen, 220-pound linebackers. You know what we need? We need a 325-pound plugger. So would it shock me if a team like the Bills picked Tyreek Williams? No, but I think you got a good shot of him being there at 34.
See, Len, there's different flavors of these defensive tackles, and that's the key. Like John says, he's a run stopper, not so much a pass rusher. So it depends on what the want list is going to be. Well, he knows. I'm a Tyreek Williams guy. I would love him at 34.
Okay, all right. How about Alexander from Toledo?
I think you'd have to pick him at 34 if you want him.
Yeah.
Oof.
He's never getting to the third.
I don't think he's getting.
Okay.
He's just too good of an athlete, and his build and his frame, it's too good.
Okay. One more.
Yeah.
Phillips from Maryland.
I don't think he's getting out of the third round, so I think you'd probably have to pick him at.
I think he goes into the fourth.
Okay, that'd be good.
He might.
That'd be good.
He might.
Right.
That's possible. I wouldn't rule that.
Those are just a bunch of guys I'd like to see in blue. I guess maybe the South Carolina cornerback also. But I just said, I don't want to. I'm looking fourth round on a corner.
Savon Ravel, I really like. I think he's going to be gone probably between picks 40 and 50. He's going to be a good player. He's just coming off a knee injury.
Yeah,
he's right in the middle there, and I'm not reaching if I may use that word. Okay, hey guys, can't wait. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'll put my mock together.
Can't wait to hear it, Len. Appreciate it.
See you, Len.
Good stuff. And by the way, we are going to have live shows on Big Blue Kickoff Live every day this week at 12:30, even the days we're having our night content with the draft. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll have regular 12:30 shows. Real quickly, I'll go through the rest of our schedule, and then we'll take our final two calls here. We have a meeting at 1:30, so we got to make sure we get these last two calls in the 8 minutes that we have. Real fast. Wednesday night, we're live on WFAN from 7 to 9. Paul, myself, and Tony Pauline. So you can check out the Odyssey app and find it there, or if you're local, 101.9 FM or 660 AM. 12:30, obviously Big Blue Kickoff tomorrow as well. Then 12:30, Big Blue Kickoff Thursday. We're going to be live when the Giants pick is in with their third overall pick. We'll go live. We'll react to the pick on the air. We'll go for a half an hour. If the Giants trade back into the first round, we'll come on at the conclusion of the first round, and we'll wrap up the draft that way. We're also going to have a draft season at the end of the night, wrapping up the first round of the draft. On Friday, normal Big Blue Kickoff at 12:30. Then we will go live when the Giants make each of their three picks. Live when they pick in the second round, the third round, and then we'll go on at the end of the draft after the Giants select their pick at 99. And there's like two picks after that. But we can't go on during the draft again. We have a window that we can't exceed from the NFL. And then on Saturday, 11:30, is that what we talked about, Pearson? Right, start live at 11:30, a half an hour before the first pick. Mm-hmm. And then we'll try, again, we have a window we have to stay in. We'll try to get you to the fifth round pick. If you get enough calls, we'll do it. And we'll try to make that work on Saturday afternoon. And then Sunday, we're live on WFN again from 8 to 10 a.m. On the Fan. You can find us the same ways you did for the Wednesday night show. So, ton of content. You'll hear a lot from the two of us. And from Sean O'Hara is going to try to join us on our night shows on Thursday and Friday. So we should have a lot going on that you will enjoy. All right, let's go to Jason in Virginia. He's up next. Jason, what's going on?
Hey, guys, I know you're in a rush. I'll keep it quick.
No, you're good, man. What do you got?
Let's say arguably Ward goes one. Hunter, if Ward, put on GM hats, hypothetical.
Yep.
Ward goes one. Hunter goes two. Medical staff says we have concerns about Carter. We don't think you should take him at 3. Where do you pivot?
Then I would trade down and get whatever I can for the pick.
Yeah, you got to try to hold somebody up and see what you can get.
No, you don't hold people up. You have a fire sale at that point. No, I'm not trying to be cute. I'm not trying to be cute. Like if you would only get like a 3 to move down 2 spots, I do it. Because if you don't believe in Carter, everyone else is in the same pot for me. I don't care who I get then. It doesn't affect me.
Oh, you're only going to move down a couple spots. You're not going further?
I mean, if I'm getting the best deal I can, absolutely, I'm getting the best deal I can. But if you don't believe in Carter at 3, I'm having a fire sale.
Yeah, well, I'm enamored with Mason Graham. I can't help it.
I'm not there with
I get it. And I get it.
Yeah.
So many good defensive tackles. to pick a guy when there's so many available at that spot. I totally get the value question, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I just absolutely, I'm enamored with the guy. And there are a lot of people who are.
And Jason, honestly, if you think Shedeur Sanders is a top 10 player or even a top 15 player, then you just pick him at 3. That's what you do.
You could do it.
That's what you do.
That's what I was kind of wondering. I was curious about the opinion. Can I ask one more quick one? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine, Jason. Go ahead. You're good.
Haven't heard a lot about Howard Cross II.
Third.
Okay, Howard Cross II.
Third.
Can I get your thoughts
the third.
on him? Any possible chance he wants it with the Giants? Because, of course, sentimentally, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Jason. Good stuff. I think you could see Howard Cross go on day 3, rounds 5, 6, or 7. So I think that's what you're looking at. The Giants' 5th and 6th round picks aren't that far apart. I think if you want to make sure you get him, that's where you would probably target him in the draft.
Late third day pick, and because of his lack of size, remember he's not big and bulky.
Yeah, if you pick a plugger early, he could be your kind of upfield.
That's the key.
3 technique type.
That's the key. You're going to have to get a plugger before you go for him. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
They played him out of position in Notre Dame. They played him at nose tackle. But he's not going to play that in the NFL. So it's going to be a position shift to the 3 tech and 5 tech in the National Football League for Howard Cross Jr. We'd love to have him here. He's a Howard Cross III. He is a great kid.
Great kid.
He's fantastic. All right. Elliot in New Jersey will wrap us up today. Hi, Elliot.
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
We're great. What's up?
Hi.
I'm just going to keep it quick. I've been going back and forth with Carter and Sanders for over a month, and I've come to the conclusion that I'd rather them go with Sanders. I heard you mention that, like, hey, the 16th best quarterback in the league, but I don't really love that analogy just because I think from quarterback 8 to, let's say, 14, it just kind of varies based on the team they're on or will they let go of the rope in a pressure situation. And I feel like Sanders probably wouldn't do that. And I think the quarterback is just going to change the team so much. Our front 7 already has guys that require double teams. I think that you got to take the chance on really improving the team.
Well, Elliot, let me ask you this.
For a year and letting them learn.
And Elliot, I think you make a good point. You make a good argument. It doesn't have to be a style comparison, but in terms of how good of a player he is, where do you think Sanders is going to land in like the current quarterback hierarchy in the National Football League? Where would you put him kind of in the same zone as in terms of quarterbacks that are playing today?
Okay, well, best case scenario, let's say he's Dak, right? I've heard people make that comparison.
And I think the best case for Sanders would be the Dak Goffish type of zone.
Right. So let me ask you this. Has there ever been a point where you thought the Cowboys could win with Dak and he just kind of made a mistake when just under pressure and did something silly? Or even golf, under pressure did something silly?
If you told me Sanders would be as good as Dak Prescott or Jared Goff, I would take him at 3.
Okay, and that's why I will. And with the draft being deep with edge rushers and DTs, we can circle back. The last thing I want to do is take Carter and then trade up for a quarterback and lose my ability to fill our gaps.
No,
because when you look at the draft, best case scenario, great. But you got to – the Giants' weakness is when one guy gets hurt, we're done. You got to get 2 more D linemen, another edge rusher, build out the defense. But if I think Sanders could be a 12 or so guy, then it comes down to under pressure, are you going to let go of the rope or not? I don't think he will, and that's why I'm taking him at 3.
No, I got a question for you.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Bill.
How about you don't deal with the quarterback? You keep all your picks. You beef up all the holes. You beef up the defense. You beef up the pass rush, and just put the quarterback thing off for another year, which, by the way, Joe has said is a legitimate option. He may not want to do that, but it is an option.
Well, but what happens if you're picking 15th next year and there's no quarterbacks?
Well, again, what happens if there's an earthquake tomorrow and New Jersey falls into the ocean?
No,
you never know.
But I think no. Hold on, time out. Elliot, stand by, hang with us. Yep. To compare those two events, one being extremely likely and one being something that's never happened in the history of this country in 300 years,
thank goodness,
is probably a little unfair.
I get it.
Okay, go ahead, Elliot. I just want to make sure that you understand. Comparing those two things is a little bit crazy.
I love to be dramatic.
Now, you would love for the Giants to be picking 15th next year, wouldn't you?
I'd love them to pick 32.
Sure.
Right? Same way you find in a quarterback.
Oh, if they pick 32, I don't care.
Even if you're picking 21st. Or is it 17th or 18th or 13th for that matter?
I'll worry about it then.
Here's your problem, Paul.
If I believe in Sanders.
Exactly, Elliot, stand by. You're okay.
And if you do, you got to take him.
Right. But
I've always been consistent about that. If they're all in on him, they've got to take him.
100%, and I agree. Elliot, thanks for the call. You make good points, and I think that's the best argument for Sanders you can make. It's a great argument, and I don't disagree with it either. I think you make some really good points. You're way too comfortable not having a quarterback. You're just way too comfortable with it.
Okay.
Do you remember the 90s?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy 1994 to 1999? Very bad. Very bad.
Danny Cannell got him to the playoffs in 97. Kerry Collins got him to a Super Bowl in 2000.
I'd include Kerry Collins. I'm not including Kerry Collins. I'm talking about the Dave Brown.
Danny Cannell was a fourth-round pick.
I'm talking about the Dave Brown, Danny Cannell, Kent Graham odyssey.
Danny Cannell was a fourth-round pick and got him to a playoff.
Who
in
cares?
Fact, they won 10 games and won a division.
But they had no chance of winning a Super Bowl.
That's true. It's true.
See, how are you okay with that?
After what's been going on here recently, playoffs would taste pretty good, as we did taste in 2022.
Yeah, but playoffs with no hope of more does not taste good.
Look, this goes back to the gut feel proclivity. I am not as much of a risk taker and gambler as you are. That's what it comes down to. It's okay. You just need to accept that there's two flavors of ice cream. I do.
No, but you are taking an enormous risk by not having a quarterback. That's the biggest risk of all. There's no bigger risk than not having a quarterback.
Go back to what Joe said at the press conference. And he was very clear. If you're not all in and you make a mistake on a quarterback, it's the worst thing you can do.
I agree with that.
Well, and that's the mantra that I follow.
I understand, but we've let
the GM said it himself.
We went back to the Eli Manning draft. You never would have taken a quarterback for 20 years.
Well, no, I would have taken Justin Herbert.
But he wasn't there.
Okay, but how do you know who's going to be there and who's not going to be there? We're dealing with hypotheticals.
Exactly.
And if the right guy comes up, I would take him. I would. If the right guy comes up, I would take him. So I don't think the right guy's coming up.
And it's not even the right guy for you. It's the perfect guy for you. You're just willing to wait and wait for 10 to 15 years until the perfect guy shows up.
My room has to be all in on him. I'm telling you, if the room's all in on Sanders, I would say do it.
I know that.
I haven't.
I'm talking about your personal belief system.
My personal opinion or feeling on this has nothing to do with the room. If the room is all in, you got to do it.
I'm not talking about this year's current class. I'm just talking about your general theory and approach to the position.
And I've told you, because of the all-in factor, that trumps everything.
No, and I understand that. I don't disagree.
But my personal preference is always going to be for a pocket passer. That's always going to be the case. How many running quarterbacks have won Super Bowls? Doesn't happen.
No, mobile ones do.
Guys who have escapability. Mobility guys do not. Escapability guys do. Mobility guys do not.
You mean running guys don't? Running guys do not.
And that's
because you can't have escapability without mobility. You need
escapability means you can maneuver from the pocket, and also you can have a roving pocket and
that
throw.
Requires mobility.
But the mobility guys are the running guys. I equate that to being guys.
No, I think there are guys that are mobile that don't run. Like
we're using different nomenclature, but
I want to be clear about it.
Philosophically speaking.
You don't want a running quarterback, you want a passing quarterback.
The guy who's going to move to throw it.
Yes, correct.
Is my guy.
I get that. That's fair.
Jackson Dart. I'm very good on Jackson Dart. You know that. He's my second favorite quarterback in the draft. Mm-hmm. I know Ward's the top guy. But the only quarterbacks that I would think of drafting, period, for me, just because of preference, is Dart, Shuck, and Kyle McCord. That's where it stops. If it's not one of those guys, I wouldn't take one.
Okay, fair enough. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. From the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio, keep getting better. You heard all our programming. Stay tuned for it. We'll see you tomorrow at 12:30.